Alright, we're in. And then I am doing just some random ass, like, extra video. Because I can. It's my channel. I do what I want. I thought it'd be interesting to look at some of the Pokemon that are currently in U. I think actually these are all the Pokemon that are currently tiered in U, but aren't ranked on the VR, the viability rankings thread. Maybe I missed one somewhere. There are some Pokemon I think that are ranked that shouldn't be. There are also some Pokemon I think that aren't ranked that you could justify. Mostly these two. Even Politoed I think has some like argument to be made for it to be ranked. That's beside the point. That's not what this video is about. I'm going to at least try my best to explain some of the rationalities behind my votes for when we've had these come up and why I've voted to not rank them. I think these two, most people are going to like be in agreement with that they're not worth ranking. But maybe these three, there's a bit more debate around it. So we'll see what I can do to at least articulate some sort of argument against them. And I'm not going to say that these Pokemon aren't usable, because I think there's a difference between usable and viable. I think viable means that you don't have to, like, jump through hoops to justify putting it on a team just independently, wherein something that's just usable, I think a lot of the time, you either have to explicitly build around the Pokemon, or you have to come into this very niche situation when team building that this Pokemon does actually fit on the team. Or when you're building, you want to use it and you just have to like accept maybe shortcomings that come with the Pokemon. Like again, it's not that you can't put a Politoed on a team and have success. It's just I think most of the time that you try to do so, it ain't gonna be too hot. And yeah, guys, of course, if you do end up enjoying this video, do leave a like and do subscribe, because again, we are dropping lots of great content. I guess I can keep using the beginning of this video as just a general talking point thing too. This is actually going to be going up the day that it's being recorded. I have 2 lives that I've pre-recorded that are, one will be coming out tonight, and I think it's in, is it an NU live or a PU live? No, I think I have 2 NU lives that I've done, yeah. But I might, there's no might, I am going to do more PU lives, I think. I have teams. And the tier, again, it looks fun enough, so I may as well play more of it. It's also not like a super overdone tier, I feel like OU. And it's not to, you know, throw shade, it's just, it's the main format of Smogon, and so everyone does it. I think it's a little bit less fun, so we can cover some of the tiers that maybe don't get as much love. Yeah, so we'll have something coming out tonight. I think it was a pretty heat live that should be pretty fun to watch. And then the one that I did this morning, I thought that was pretty fun as well. And that should be quite banging as well. So let's get into this. So first off, we got this monstrosity Arctivish. And the funny thing about Arctivish is when the generation first started and when NU first started rolling, I think it was maybe April, Arctivish was actually like deemed as pretty decent by people. Mostly because at the time, NU didn't really have a like good water resists. It was really Silvally Water and Drampa as the only 2 things at the time that were getting a lot of usage. Eldegoss too. And Gourgeist Small. The main thing is that there weren't bulky waters. And since Arctivish is a water and ice type, things like the Drampa, things like Eldegoss, things like Gourgeist Small, those were not like good checks to this. You know, things that would maybe want to switch into Vicious Ren just got blown back by Arctivish's Icicle Crash. And so I think Arctivish is a pretty good example of why I say Silvally Water rose to prominence. People needed like more actual bulky water types, or just the defensive utility that water types offered. And so you saw Silvally Water rise up, and then afterwards you saw like Lantern got a bit more prominence, because Lantern was weird at the beginning of the gen. It was around, but it didn't get a lot of usage. Mostly because I believe, I can't really justify it too well, but I would say it's like Drampa being around harmed it a lot. There was also, I think, a lot more worry at the time about the like Sword Standstill Valleys. Like beyond just water, Dark was still really good at the time. What else? Dragon started gaining prevalence. What else was there? There was another a fairy during like the first month of Inu. That was around and it was really good too. So there were a lot of things that were just making it hard to justify something like Lantern. So really the only bulky water type we had around was Sylvally Water. Eventually though, we had like Wishy-Washy pickup. And as tier shifts have happened, there's just been more and more options that check this. Be it more grass types even, just more water types picking up. You know, like we've got, again, or is it Wishy-Washy, but like Quillfish has picked up a lot more. Lantern is a lot better of a pick now. We have even more grass types, which is, you know, they're slower, some of them. Well, I guess the main thing is they can't switch to Icicle Crash as well. But they do limit Arctivish's chances to switch in, which is really good. And also there's just more competition, even with Sylvally Water dropping off. Basculin is pretty much considered the premier offensive water type at this point. Sylvally Dragon also is like, it's not a water type obviously, but it offers similar resistances while also being, I'd say, just better offensively. You don't have to choice lock to be super scary strong. I have seen one person run non-choice on Arctivish, and I mean, it's an option. But I just think this mon's too slow. You don't really want to run boots on it because it's just not very strong. It's bulky, but like water ice isn't a great defensive typing. I could see some argument to use it if you wanted to like have water absorb, but to just say fuck you Basculin. That's really about it. It's just really hard to get going, I think. Let's go to the next just not justifiable Pokemon. I think this one's actually not justifiable at all, Jolteon. This one is awful. And it was never really any good either. I think it capped out at like B- on the viability rankings. It's just always like been walled by significant portion of the tier. Like whether it was like specially defensive Clefairy, whether it was Trampa, whether it was Lantern, whether it was I want to say Sandaconda, but like, you know, Spec Shadow Ball actually does some sizable damage to that. But like whether it was Galarfisk, whether it's like say Sylvally Dragon even giving it issues, Togedemaru pivoting in on the electric moves, Eldegoss. There's just so much that has walled Jolteon throughout the entirety of this generation that I just cannot ever justify using it. And it's also just, as the tier's gone on, it's just gotten more and more stuff to compete with it as an electric type breaker, which doesn't really help it at all. You know, like you've got Rotom, you've got Magneton. Rotom Frost at times has been pretty good. And it's even immune to ground and can put boots on, so it doesn't really have a weakness to hazards at all. I wouldn't say Jolteon has a weakness to hazards, but it does pivot a lot, so residual is pretty easy to start stacking versus it. It's just so hard to actually get significant run out of this, even with the speed tier. And it's not good coverage, but it's enough coverage a good bit of the time. It just doesn't really do anything most games other than just use Shadow Ball every turn because it's not going to be able to do anything else. If you have a ground type, you're going into the ground type versus it. And it just causes a lot of hell for Jolteon. Drampa leaving, it's like, that was helpful, but eh. Hell, even Luxray I would say is a better ground type. Because at least you have coverage for some of them, you know? You have like some late game cleaning. I feel like you have more late game cleaning potential just because you're like so much stronger and you're not locked into one move. And so with those agility sets, you outspeed stuff. I can give Luxray that much. That's pretty much it with this mon. It's such a straightforward Pokemon, and I think that's part of what hurts it. Because there's so little variance with its sets. At least with like something like Rotom Frost, you can pretty easily fit Toxic as a move on it if you want to cripple non-heal Bell Lantern, right? Something like Rotom, that's just super versatile. You've got Scarf, you've got Specs, you've got Nasty Plot, you've got like bulky Citrus Berry, you've even got like offensive defog. Like that is a lot of possible sets. What is another like electric breaker that kind of competes with it? Magneton. We haven't seen a lot of variants with Magneton sets, but it just offers a lot more defensively because Steel is a very nice typing. And is really bulky as well, just naturally. Also, Specs gets to use Choice Spec Steel Beam, which is just fun. Doing over half to Galar Fisk as it switches in with Analytic Steel Beam. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Let's go to Hitmontop. And now, I'm going to admit right here, these next three, you could argue that these are viable to some degree. I'm just going to explain why they're not perceived as that viable. Because there are Pokemon, again, I will reiterate this now. There are Pokemon on the VR that I think you could justify unranking right now, and I think you could justify the ranking of these three. I don't think they're good. I think they are usable. I don't think you're like completely hampering your ability to build a good team with them. I know people have done it, but there's a reason that at most you're gonna see that you would see these Pokemon like C or C+. When we start with Hitmontop, it was kind of cool for a week when it got Triple Axle, and if people remembered its Hitmontop, I mean like you want to click close combat at some point with this Pokemon because it's your strongest fighting move. But there's 12,000 ghost types in this tier, and so all you're ever clicking is Triple Axle. Because like so many of them outspeed you. So if you CC, it's not like Toxicroak, which the next turn you could just be like, okay, I'll Shadow Ball you now. No, you're fucked. If a Poison type comes in, you're just not strong enough. A lot of the time, like Weezing coming in with Helmet, especially Garbodor with Helmet. At least Garbodor you can Earthquake, but like Weezing dropping has been so annoying for this Mon because it runs Helmet 99% of the time, and so every time you hit Triple Axle, minus 16. Oh, minus 16. Like using Triple Axle against Weezing, you might be doing more damage to yourself. I think you are. And while we don't have a lot of fairy types, Clefairy is really good right now still. Alchemy is pretty good right now too. Physically defensive variants just do cause a bit of an issue. They don't pivot super well into Technician Triple Axle, but they can soft check you if they get in on close combat. And they can at least spam recovery for a couple turns to force us to take a lot of Life Orb Chip, which is nice. This thing's also just, again, not a great spinner. It doesn't have a particularly great matchup against most setters because it's, again, you want technicians that you hit hard. So you don't really get to run Intimidate. You don't get to just switch into the rockers super reliably. Earthquake hurts. This mon's not bulky. 50-95 is not good. That is really bad. It just... The speed also sucks because, like, as a fighting type wall breaker, how do I justify this over Toxicroak? Which just breaks more effectively. Has stab on its the priority as well. Like you could run Mach Punch on this, I guess. Like that's like another bit of an issue with this. You can't really run priority. It has Mach Punch and even Bullet Punch, but it's hard to fit them. I guess if you could drop Spin, I feel like you would. I feel like you need this to be hazard control a lot of the time on these sorts of teams that you'd use it on. It's just, it's a dire mon. It's not the worst to always have to be clicking Triple Axle because it does a lot to a lot of things that switch in, but I feel like it's just so easy to punish. Now let's go to Politoed. Now, I have seen a fair bit of, like, variance in what this mon can kind of do. I saw some dude running Spadef with Psychic, which I thought was kind of cool as a means to check Toxicroak. 90 HP, 100 Spadef does make this a pretty good special wall. I know there are a lot of people that like Choice as well on this, whether it's Specs or Scarf, because Politoed got Earth Power for some reason. And so, I mean, that's your Lantern coverage. You have Focus Blast for Ferroseed, got Ice Beam for other grass types, and you can run, like, you know, Scald, Hydro Pump, whatever water move. Like, the coverage is there. It's got Water Absorb too, so it walls past Skillian. It's just like... it really just comes down to I feel this is just outclassed. Basculin's a better breaker. Wishy-Washy, I think, is overall better defensively, or Lantern, depending on which one you're using on your team. That's really all there is to it. I don't. Again, this is a matter of usable versus viable. I think Politoed can work its way onto teams that really need it to do something. Like the combination of traits it offers, let it fit on certain teams. Same with Lantern. Lurantis. This Mon isn't necessarily bad. It's just, it's so hard to justify using, I feel, over something like Eldegoss, really. That's going to be its most direct competition. Or even Decidueye is another, like, more offensive grass type remover. So, like, with Lurantis, I mean, your moveset's going to be Defog. I feel like then you have Superpower, because otherwise you need to Steel types. And then the last two moves are just so hard to figure out, because I feel like you need Leaf Storm, otherwise you are a grass type that loses to water types. It's not good, but I'll even put the item on here to demonstrate my point more. I feel like you want Synthesis last. I also feel like you want Aromatherapy last. I also feel like you want Knockoff last. It's just so much that you want to fit on this Pokemon that you end up not being able to. And it's also just got such a weird stat distribution. It's slow as hell, so like, you need speed. And it's got like a really awkward bulk, I feel. And you want to hit a lot of different benchmarks. It just makes... It's not an easy Pokemon to use either, I don't think, which does harm it a little bit. I think that's a pretty weird point to make, but I also feel like it's true. I feel like there's always going to be so much optimization you want to do with Lurantis. The payoff to it, and the payoff to doing it, isn't very good. Also, poison types exist in this tier and are really good. Whether it's Silvally Poison, whether it's Weezing, whether it's Garbodor. There's just a lot of good options. Croak, Skuntank, just other options that outspeed. It's really hard to get a lot out of Lurantis at times, I feel. And there's just, again, more consistent things like Decidueye. Like, yeah, Lurantis just beats up on Miltank with Superpower, that's cool. Like, it's not like Decidueye cares particularly about Miltank switching in as it defogs. You just U-turn into, like, your Toxicroak, and you say, alright, give me one. It's very interesting that I think like, again, these two have stayed in NU for so long, but then you look down at, like, say, even just PUBL, Sally Poison should be NU. It's really good, but somehow it's managed to stay down here the whole time. There's probably even some PU Pokemon somewhere that you could find and say, yeah, this should be NU. I might be lying. I don't see any in PU right now that I would say, yeah, that should be an NU. Closest thing that comes to it's probably Dreadnought. Even then, that's used on like one team build. You could maybe say Thievul has more of a use in NU, but fairy types kind of suck. Makes it hard to justify as well. I guess I could also talk about some other Pokemon that, like, they aren't unranked, but NU, but they're like still NU and pretty bad. I'm not gonna add them to the builder thing, but one, I kind of want to say Avalugg here. It's B- on the VR, but I feel like maybe it could be unranked. Maybe not unranked, but like I feel like it probably isn't that good, you know? It doesn't do a whole lot. It fits on very specific teams and is pretty good on those teams. It's just there's so much competition for the slot of physical wall, and Kofic Regis is just so good. You know, Quagsire even. I mean, you could put both of them on the same team pretty easily, but like, I feel like the Coffin's just so much better. Cursula, this one's just really bad right now. As an offensive ghost type, which is it's pretty much what it is. It's just outdone by all the other options, like point blank. And even as a suicide lead on, say, Hyper Offense, or you just an offensive rocker on Hyper Offense, Dreadnought is better. I've seen some people running Miltank even. Hoenn confirmed, I believe, has made, you know, Hyper Offense variant number 12,000 by this point, and he's used Miltank a fair bit. So it's just how do you justify using this Pokemon? I don't know. What other things are there? I mean, there is Lux, right? It's on the VR, but it'll drop. It's not very good. There's Ninja. I'm kidding. It's okay, guys. I love to meme on Ninjask at this point. It's just kind of funny. Thwacky should not be in you. I'm very confused about Thwacky. Well, no, I know how. There were some like dedicated grassy terrain teams running around at one point. I don't think the Thwacky is bad. It's just I don't think it's good enough as a standalone Pokemon to be in you. You know. I think that's about it. Those are my general thoughts about just some Pokemon that are tiered in you and either not on the viability rankings thread or just they're tiered in you and on it, but like their viability is maybe a bit in question, or just their overall usefulness as a in-you Pokemon. Also, I was listening back to one of the videos I pre-recorded, and for some reason the sound was only really coming through the left side of the headset, and I looked at OBS audio settings, and it was on stereo, so I set it to mono, so I'm going to hope that this sounds a little bit better. If it doesn't, then whatever. You know, so long as the audio is like tolerable, I think we're pretty good off, pretty well off. That's gonna be it from me here. As always, thank you for watching. If you made it to this point and you're not subscribed, and I don't know what the hell to tell you. You clearly want to risk missing out on another video, and that's a damn shame if I've ever seen one. Until next time, though, hope you enjoy your day, and I'll see you then. Peace.